Alright, you want to talk about bad fanfiction tropes? I got a bad one for you today. Welcome to episode 4, I believe it is, of Bad Fanfiction Tropes. And you may or may not be able to tell by the title, depending on what I make it, but, you know, I've read my fair share, as I've made clear several times now, of fanfictions. Some are really good, some are really bad, and then there's some tropes that just continuously pop up time and time and again. Now, excuse me, one that I have read many times, and it rarely ever works. I think I've seen it work one time, and it was... I might be confusing it with another story, but the point is, there are some fanfictions out there that we all know are called self-inserts. And this is something that applies to all fanfiction, not just Star Wars, but Star Wars ones are especially egregious sometimes, because they trick you into thinking that it's going to be something cool, something interesting, something new, and it just doesn't do anything. And it really drives me crazy. And this one makes me mad. Like, the other ones didn't exactly make me too mad, but this one makes me really upset, because I've read some fanfictions in the past where I thought they were going somewhere, and you get like 40, 50 chapters deep into one fucking story with this basic fucking premise, and it doesn't go anywhere.
Use your aggressive feelings, boy.
Let the hate flow through you.
Self-inserts in Star Wars have a bad track record, and they are usually involved with female self-inserts. Now, that is nothing against, women writers, women, wanting to insert themselves in the stories. I have, again, if that's something you want to do, fine, but make it interesting. I read one really good self-insert for a woman, that was written by a woman, for a woman, for Lord of the Rings. It was very romancy, but on a technical level, on an engaging level, it was actually okay. I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. But man, there are just some bad ones when it comes to Star Wars.
I can feel your anger. It gives you focus, makes you stronger.
Oh man, there was one, and this is the one that really pissed me off, where Obi-Wan, and it always involves fucking Obi-Wan too. Obi-Wan crashes, or not really crashes, but more like softly lands on Earth in the current times, and he ends up at some lady's house, and at first the lady's like, this is Ewan McGregor, or I'm being trolled, and this is just someone who looks a lot like Ewan McGregor, you're not really Obi-Wan. And they're like, what do you mean? How do you know who I am? I am Obi-Wan. And he uses the Force, and is like, oh shit, it really is him. And they sit down, and they watch episode 1 through 6. She sits him down and makes him watch Star Wars episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So he gets to see into the future, because this Obi-Wan has just started to train Anakin, because Anakin is still like a young boy after Phantom Menace. And Obi-Wan's disturbed, because from what he can see from like the episode 1 movie, it basically was able to chronicle the entirety of events, but it also shows him like Darth Maul talking to basically Palpatine, and then episodes 2 and 3 especially, it's Palpatine who's the bad guy, Count Dooku is going to betray everybody, Anakin becomes Vader, they have that horrible duel on Mustafar, etc., etc. That is a cool fucking premise. Obi-Wan watching episodes 1 through 6, and then flying back off into space to basically try and stop that from happening. It's kind of like the time travel shit, but with a twist on it that is cool enough to, again, you can make any trope interesting if you put an interesting twist on it, and this is an interesting twist. The problem is that it didn't do anything with that information. Obi-Wan and this woman end up in a relationship. I expected that going into the story. That was not something I was not expecting to see. So I accepted it. I don't think Obi-Wan as a character should be in a relationship with anybody, because that is just not who I view Obi-Wan as being. He is someone who's devoted to the Jedi Code. Even at the lowest of points, he's devoted to that. And after seeing what happened to Anakin with Padme, you'd think that that would be reinforced. But there are these fucking people out here, Star Wars fans, who want to see Obi-Wan fuck somebody really badly.
Oh my.
And if you're a woman, I kind of get it, because Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor, maybe he's kind of hot for a man, but to all the men out there who continuously want Obi-Wan to have, like, 30 baby mamas and 30 children, stop thinking about Obi-Wan's dick. That's all I'm saying. Second point. In this story, Obi-Wan takes her with him up into space. They go back to the Republic. He makes, some sort of big grandiose statement about being with this woman regardless of the Jedi Order's commands, and they're kind of like, well, alright, Obi-Wan, I guess we'll give it a shot. We'll see what happens. They're not happy about it, but they let it happen. And it kind of helps set a precedent for Anakin to be okay to basically be with Padme in the years to come. Now, once they get off Earth, the story dragged. And I am talking about serious fucking drag. I have not read a story drag so hard in my fucking life. It was written competently, the characters stayed within the characters as set down by the initial chapters, but once they get back into the Republic, it dragged so fucking hard. Because, first of all, Obi-Wan doesn't even really do anything to try and stop the events from happening as they were. Like, he talks to Anakin and he makes Anakin feel more welcome, more accepted, more like a person. And he even tries to teach him that, maybe the Jedi are wrong about relationships. Again, I don't agree with Obi-Wan being portrayed like this, but for your story, sure. And Anakin does seem to take more kindly to Obi-Wan and accept him more as a master, as a brother from an early point rather than waiting until they're older. And it seems like things are on the right track, especially with this woman character being involved, but it meanders for years to get to the Clone Wars, and when we get to the Clone Wars, the events of Episode 2 basically happen the way that they did in the movie, and you're like, okay, but Obi-Wan, you had all this fucking information, you didn't do anything with it. And it became this melodrama about Obi-Wan and this woman and, like, their relationship and things just going back and forth, and how Obi-Wan gets hurt when he's out in the war, and how Anakin's getting older and he seems to be a better person. I gave up on the story. I'm not even gonna lie. I gave up on it because I think what really fucked me up, and again, if you know what this story is, don't post it. Don't tell me. I don't even want to know. Leave the person who wrote it alone. It could very well have been their first story. It could very well be a story they regret writing. I'm not trying to attack anyone personally for a story that they wrote in their free time. Fan fiction is a great way for someone to express their thoughts, their opinions, their ideas, and even if it's done poorly, that is someone's attempt at expressing an idea that they have in their head. That's creativity. That is an art form. Unlike Disney, where they regurgitate bullshit for
Money.
My point is, I gave up on the story because I went into the review section of fanfiction on that story, and someone basically said, it's kind of weird that things are not changing, even though Obi-Wan saw the movies way back at the beginning of the story, because I was like 50 chapters deep, and this was a long story. And the author basically replied by saying, yeah, I'm going to go with the idea that maybe my character does not remember, is like slowly like Obi-Wan and her are slowly starting to forget what happened on Earth, as if Earth was like in a pocket dimension, and when they left Earth, some of the memory was hazy and they don't remember it. Like, basically, they remember seeing episodes 1 through 6 on film, but when they got back into the Star Wars universe, those memories over time started to, like, fade and fade and fade. And I'm just like, what is the point of that then? Why did you even have that be a point? That was the whole point of this story, was to change the future because Obi-Wan saw episode 1 through 6 and he fell in love with this woman and he wanted to make the galaxy better off for it. And you're telling me that we've gone into this like soap opera melodrama of Obi-Wan and this character where Anakin is, okay, maybe he's on the right path, but he doesn't remember episodes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 all that well? Are you kidding me? We were 50 or 40 chapters deep, And I had spent so long waiting for the moment where, like, Anakin would, like, be shown to be this different person, or Obi-Wan would help him, like, refute the Emperor, refute Palpatine. But come the middle of the story, Palpatine was still seen as kind of like this unknown, is he good or is he bad? And I'm sitting there going, of course he's fucking bad, you've seen the movies. Well, we don't remember them. What do you mean you don't remember them? Man, it's... that plot just fucked me up because I was so mad. I had devoted so much reading time to that fucking fan fiction. And again, regardless of who the writer was, that was not a good fucking way to handle that story. That was not, because it pissed me off. Maybe there are some Obi-Wan shippers out there who found that to be a glorious way of, like, not making the future set in stone of Obi-Wan fixing everything. Maybe. But Jesus Christ, it annoyed the fuck out of me. Because you set it up. You set up a premise, and then I don't even know if it was halfway through your story. At some point in your story, you just decided that you weren't gonna have that be a main point anymore. We just have Obi-Wan and some random woman who he found on Earth with him now, and all this time we've been melodramatizing his life with this woman. Anakin's budding relationship with Padme, which isn't even really budding all that much because he's still like 17, 18, whatever. It just didn't go anywhere. It didn't mean anything. But that's just one story. There are other self-inserts that are not done very well. Now I'm going to be generalizing a little bit because I don't remember too many stories like that one, and that one's ingrained in my head just because of how much it pissed me off. But a lot of the self-inserts do this thing where they unintentionally or intentionally, I have no idea, Mary Sue themselves into the story. Now, I don't need to talk about Mary Sue's. We already know the greatest fucking Mary Sue of all time. She exists within Star Wars now.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
But Mary Sue, when it comes to Star Wars, self-insert fanfiction is really, really bad. And it is really, really obnoxious. And I've seen this happen in Lord of the Rings too, because I read Lord of the Ring fanfictions as well. And they are not terrible either. You have your good ones, you have your bad ones. Maybe I'll talk about them someday. But you get a self-insert Mary Sue's where maybe they have an interesting background, maybe they have an interesting niche, maybe they're an interesting, like, alien or character that have this culture that's kind of interesting, etc., etc., and you're like, okay, I can see this kind of going somewhere cool, I guess. And they wreck everything because they have the Rey syndrome of everyone likes them inexplicably, all the bad guys hate them but can't do shit to stop them. They have the power of God on their side.
Don't fuck with me! I have the power of God and anime on my side!
And whenever they go up against Count Dooku, Darth Sidious, Darth Maul, Darth Vader, they wreck their shit, and no one can expressly state how or why. And again, they're beautiful. Everyone loves them. Everyone wants to be them. All men want her. All women want to be her. Maybe many women want her as well. Maybe men want to be her too. It's just, you know, they can open up wormholes in time and space to stop someone from fucking dying, as I've seen happen in a fan fiction. I mean, Rey basically saved Kylo Ren with the power of love, but I mean, I don't know if the writers of these self-inserts exactly comprehend how bad this looks, where someone who is basically a written version of yourself is being planted into a universe where they are so overpowered to where they might as well be a god. It sounds a little egotistical. That's all I'm saying. You sound and look a little egotistical. And you ought to not do that when you're writing a story where basically you are self-inserting yourself. I have dabbled in fanfiction. I'm not gonna lie. Maybe I've said it before. I don't know. And I wrote a story that is very long-winded. It has a lot of stuff going on. And a character that I wrote, who was an OC, original character, when I look back at him, is a little self-inserty. And I realized that going back and looking at it and going, ooh, yeah, I can see some of myself in this character. That was not my intent. But here's the thing. even with that character that I wrote, he gets his ass beat daily. Established characters wreck his shit. When he goes up against other original characters, they beat him bad, and he has to come back and be stronger and fight them and try and achieve something. I am not trying to toot my own horn. I'm just saying that the appropriate way to write a character, regardless of if they're a self-insert or if they're a character that's actually like in-universe, or you're writing an original story for whatever you're writing, a fantasy novel, a romance novel, you have to give them something to overcome. If they are good at everything, that doesn't make them fucking interesting. My character, who I realized is a bit of a self-insert, got his, left hand torn off, basically. He gets beaten up by a character he's related to. He gets shocked. He gets fucking beaten. He gets whipped. He gets told how much of a piece of shit he is by his masters. He finally meets someone who treats him like a human being, and he like follows them until the end of the earth. And even when he is sent to go do missions and he fails them, he feels terrible about it, and he tries to go and be a stronger, better person for it. And even then, he still fails. Again, I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I'm just saying that comparatively, I think that is a better written character than a woman inserted into Star Wars who is inexplicably really powerful, connected to the Force, has all the powers that she needs in the fucking, in the heat of the moment. If she needs to resurrect somebody, if she needs to heal wounds, if she needs to shoot someone with lightning, if she needs to, evaporate the sun, she has them. Someone who is intoxicatingly beautiful, who all men want, but she only has her eyes set on that one guy, usually Obi-Wan, who has, for some reason, inexplicable relations either to the Emperor or to some other dark figure in history, who is like a demon who's constantly trying to like goad you to the dark side. Yes, I know this sounds like Rey, but that's the thing. Rey is a Mary Sue, and these self-insert Mary Sues are the fucking problem I'm talking about. It is a cancer in writing, not just fan fictions, in writing, where you as an author take yourself and you insert yourself into a situation where you want to make yourself... It's a power fantasy. Get your power fantasy somewhere else and stop writing these stories where we're supposed to feel connected to characters who have no problem fighting the enemy, no adversity to overcome. What's Rey's adversity to overcome? She doesn't have a family, so she steals the name Skywalker. Suddenly she has some sort of lineage to be connected to. She's the heir of the fucking galaxy because she's related to Palpatine. Fuck you. But when it comes to these self-inserts, I give them credit for trying, but you need to try a little harder. Because you can't be all-powerful. Like, talking about ways to improve it, or stories I've seen where self-inserts do have problems. There was one story that wasn't really a self-insert, but there was a character in there that when I looked up the author, I was like, yeah, it's kind of a self-insert. They ended up with Anakin, actually, which was shocking. She was powerful. She was described as attractive. But it wasn't, like, harped on. It wasn't really, like, something that was beaten over your head. Her power did not extend to beat the Emperor. Like, the Emperor could kick her ass. Some of the other characters established, like Obi-Wan, Yoda could kick her ass. Stuff like that. It's like, okay, I can accept that because at least the character was not strictly written to be a self-insert, but it had some self-insert qualities, and at least they have some adversity to overcome, and at least they're not as powerful as fucking God in Star Wars. That's all I'm saying. So, this one I don't have a lot of examples for, but this is more of a general problem with Star Wars fanfics. Self-inserts. Again, any trope. I'll repeat this until the end of time. Any trope can be written interestingly, can have a well-formed plot, can have a cool story, but you gotta put some twists on it, and you gotta go into a story, even if you're writing a self-insert, and go, how do I make my character, I don't know what the fuck I was trying to say, how do I make my character have dilemma, a little bit of angst is good, a little bit, not too much. How do I have the adversity? How do I make them feel like they earn their place in the universe? Because a way a character earns their place is through adversity. through gaining respect in the normal means and bounds of the universe. Having a character go in there, say they're a self-insert Jedi, and fight a Sith and lose and try to be stronger, learn under Yoda, learn under Qui-Gon, learn under Obi-Wan, to make themselves a better person by gaining the wisdom of a character who has gained our respect for being an established character in Star Wars is a lot more interesting than having your character jump into the scene, tell Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, Yoda, Mace Windu, you're all shit, you all don't know what you're talking about, get the fuck out of my way, you fucking peons, and listen to the real story of how things have to go. Again, this is like Disney. It's like just inserting your character and telling everyone else you're wrong, despite being here for 40, 50 decades. You're wrong. I'm right. Get over yourselves. This is how things are going to be done from now on. That is not right. That is not true. That is not how anything is supposed to be operated inside of Star Wars. Stop trying to insert your own goddamn ideas, your own goddamn self into the story without any sort of real dilemma, without any sort of antagonism, without any sort of real crux or focal point or thought or reason behind being there. That said, I'm going to end the video here. Have you guys read any self-insert Mary Sues that have been especially egregious? Don't link them. Don't tell me the names. Give me some general ideas. Because once again, I do not encourage anyone to bother the fanfic writers. Don't flame them, don't attack them, don't treat them like shit. They are trying. Even if they are doing poorly, they are trying. And I give them respect for trying, as opposed to like what Disney's doing, where they're not trying and they're making you pay to not try, as opposed to fanfic writers who are asking you to please read their story, even though it's not very good, and at least it's free. And you know, some of them try to improve themselves later on. My point is, if you guys read any stories, tell me about them in the comments. Let me shill myself. Like the video. Subscribe. I have a Patreon if you want to. I still need to work on some of the fucking tiers of it. But I do have it. So if anyone wants to join, please feel free to. It's not something I'm going to force you to do. That said, I will piss off and I'll see y'all later.